I thought with some of the things going on injury-wise, it'd be a good place to start. Would be right there. Um, Duffy will be out. Upper body issue. We're just continuing to look at it. I think that's not going to be an extended deal. Will Style progressing really nicely, but he's doubtful for this weekend along with Crumby. They're both probably on the same path. Pretty probable for next week, but doubtful for this week. Um, Austin Altapeter, his surgery will be Wednesday, so let's keep our thoughts and prayers with him. That'll be a knee issue, and once they get in there, they'll figure out how bad or what the positives are with that. Logan Larson is much better today than he was last Monday, and so that's a real big positive. He gave us everything he could for the first half, and I think he had a pretty bad fall on it, and so thankfully Dutenheffer was back and played a really good football game. Last, we'll add one other person to this list, kind of along the same lines, but we're going to move forward without Silas Evans being part of the program. He's been dismissed. Silas will still have all the resources to be able to finish out the semester academically, and then we'll continue to provide care for him and his injury with the meniscus surgery. The bottom line is, and we don't have all the details, but we had enough information to move forward with this decision. But he violated Standard 4, which is represent the program in a first-class manner at all times. And so this was a process. I really appreciate Matt. We had some conversations. This was a tough one. Silas has been a positive person within our program, doing well academically, and a little bit unfortunate with some circumstances, but that's the decision we made. And I'm sure you guys will have a question or two, but I'm not going to go into great detail. Reflecting on this, weekend, Youngstown State, which actually feels about a week ago already, getting set for this matchup coming up this Saturday. But, I don't normally do this, but I want to say, that Coach Phillips and that crew, they did a great job. They came in with three great plans in all three phases. I mean, they got after our kick return team. I thought they were really physical. That might have been the first time, in the last 2 years that I can honestly say that I don't think they exceeded our physicality, but I think they matched up. They set some edges and built some walls on defense that just didn't allow us to get the outside zone game going and made us redirect and go in some different directions. And so they played really well. Coaching staff did a great job. Number 12 is one of the top 2 or 3 players. As we stand here today with the games that we've played, he's the second best player in the league. 303 yards passing, 75 yards rushing. In completion percentage wasn't like outstanding, 19 of 31 or 19 of 30. And we did a good job against Tom Zach, limiting him, but he just kept fighting and he willed their guys a couple situations there to stay out there. And I felt like after watching the tape that they played really well. A couple of mistakes really costed them, and that's a good football team. I wish them the best. Thank you to the Dome and the fans that were there. I mean, I think they forced 3 false starts, and I thought actually could have been a couple more. We were really making that quarterback have to grind. The crowd was grind at the line of scrimmage, causing the old linemen to sit in their stances for extended periods of time. Offensively, we're on a pretty good tear on third down. We're 58% in the game. Gold zone scoring, we were 4 of 5 touchdowns, and obviously, I thought we made the right decision to go up 8 to kick the field goal there. Barika's been really good with the 15 rushing touchdowns. His low gold zone rushing demeanor and, wanting to attack that situation has been really good. I wanted to comment on that. And then I really like what we're doing. We're keeping it pretty simple once we get inside the 5 or 6 yard line. And that can be tough. And that allows us to take care of the ball, and you get 4 chances at it. So I thought we did a good job with those things. The negatives are the 3 and out in the first series. We're better than that. We really are. We only produced 3 explosives, and quite frankly, I know there should have been 5, and we had 2 lack of hustle plays. 2 lack of hustle plays that would have sprung guys for big plays. And we've gotten that addressed, and I don't see that happening down the road here. The ugly turnover, there's a holding call on it. We're running around. We don't catch the ball, and then you get the turnover and the penalty there. Finishing the game, the 3rd and 18 to Raja, was really big, guys. I really think that game we probably would have had a chance to win it at the end, like in some sort of 2-minute drill, but we don't convert that. We don't take the clock down to a minute, and then they got a tough road to hoe. So that was encouraged by that. Special teams, 2 big returns. Jackson just seems to have a knack about him, and I go back to Abilene Christian. Just there's a knack about that kid that when we're not playing the most complimentary football or we're not humming on all cylinders, he finds a way to make a play, and that was pretty remarkable individual effort. I thought Raj's kick return was a great unit return, and he hit the crease in there. That was great. Keegan's fumble recovery. Yeah, luck, this, that, and the other thing. Here's what I know. If you play with great effort and pursuit and you don't loaf and you don't change speeds, you're around the ball and good things happen. And so I'm so happy for Keegan. That guy just keeps fighting and keeps improving. A walk-on young man in our program that's contributing on special teams, did a great job. I think, the kick cover unit, 4 or 5 positions, people, just off. For us to get circled in the Fargo Dome on that unit is not acceptable. It needs to get cleaned up. We've been just okay, even though the numbers will tell you that we're good and it is what it is, where we're ranked and all that stuff. I'd like to see us be cleaner, and that starts with where the spot is, where we're kicking the ball. Okay, if we're not going to kick it on the numbers, it better go through the dang building. Okay, because we're getting counter returns when we're kicking the ball in the hash. It's compromising everything that we're doing. So we need to get that addressed immediately. Defensively, forcing field goals, unbelievably important. We kept them out of the red zone 3 times, knocked them out of there once. And so to force a field goal on the first drive when they kind of just were connecting and moving the ball, I thought that was big time. The way we finished the game, we get a stop. We get the takeaway, really, really good. I think the one thing we have to be aware of is just we have to cultivate those 3 and outs, 4th down stops or takeaways. We fell short there for sure. And then our tackling. And it's interesting, like I wanted to look back at our pass rush. Why didn't we overwhelm them? And in a game like that, you got to play so much zone coverage so you have eyes on the quarterback. You're not going to be competing and competitive on every single pass attempt, but we just got to finish at the quarterback a little bit. Toby and Nene had some really good rushes where he disrupted timing, and we made the quarterback splash. We miscontained 1 or 2 times where we had him dead to rights. Logan Kopp was on one of those. And so we just have to finish, and we have to tackle a little bit better. I thought from play 22 on, we looked like a connected outfit that was playing really hard and playing some pretty good defense, but we were just a little sputtery at the start. Guys, what I want to do is open it up for questions now, and then we'll come back and preview this game. Go ahead.
Tim, NDSU is 1-3 at the Alaris. Do you address your team with that at all? Or?
Well, we addressed this. NDSU is 60. We're down in the all-time series. That matters to me. Okay, overall, NDSU is 22, 25, and 2 on the road in Grand Forks, period. Okay, and then at the Lara Center, we're 1-3 all time with our last outing up there, not so, pretty, right? I think they've outscored us 106-68 at the Alara Center. The Alara Center and that community and that football team have our full attention, no doubt about it.
How much does last week's defensive performance have value for you as far as what they were able to do, and then how much do you kind of throw out because not everybody has that quarterback?
It was interesting. I was going to say, okay, the bottom line is that we showed up on Saturday, scrapped and fought, played another really good football team. Just look at their losses and look how their losses have come. And to get a win and to take care of business, 3-1 in the turnover margin, 4-6 in the penalties, right? You got to learn how not to beat yourself. So I was super excited about that. That quarterback and the quarterback from Southern Illinois. And Jerry's probably somewhere around that pocket. He's a capable athlete. He's a good runner, but number 12 is an elite athlete, an elite competitor. Jerry's an elite competitor. He's a good athlete, but 12 is a tough out. And so I think we can take a lot of things away from the Southern Illinois and Youngstown game, and the fact that, man, when we get opportunities, we have to find a way to get the ball to the ground. Because when those guys splash out of there with all these excellent athletes around them, it leads to 303, and it leads to rushing touchdowns. It leads to having to come out of coverage. It's hard when you got a quarterback that's operating outside the pocket like that. And I thought he did a really good job. Oh, let's not just talk about. He played quarterback too. He got him in and out of some things. He got some protection set the right way. Their offensive line played really well, but I think he did a good job directing it in a very loud environment.
Is there any magic potion to play well in a loud environment? I mean, he did it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think there is. I think, I'm really encouraging our coordinators, hey, make sure we make this about our players. Let's not overcomplicate anything. Things that we can operate fast. Let's be thinking about the first down. Let's just get things going, effective, efficient plays, and then just let's let everybody sit in their seats and enjoy a good college football game. I think that's how you do it. You got to be productive. You don't want them to keep pouncing on you on 2nd and long and then 3rd and medium or 3rd and long. And so I think staying ahead of the chains and staying on schedule is critical offensively.
Coach, with the 2nd and 3rd stringers, how do you feel the development has been going this year as you get closer and closer towards the end of the regular season?
I first start off by going to, Jim and Ryan Napoli, who's running things over there. I was able to get over the last 2 weeks. The freshmen are now training. And I think the strength coaches would say we're 3 or 4 weeks ahead of schedule there. There's a big difference from getting your workout in and getting a little sweat like we all do. Training with a purpose, training to a mentality. Like, I talked to that group specifically. I say, guys, in high school right now, you'd be getting ready for wrestling. You'd be getting ready for basketball. I need you fully committed to contributing to wins, right? And giving us the best look you can. But also, I want you to be sitting there like, I don't want to be on the scout team next year. I said, that process starts now. This is all bonus football for them. And so they're doing a great job. I mean, it was good to get Talon Edey out there, right? And to have him have the pressure of starting. And, there was a read in there or, a communication that he could have handled better. Our development, I'm very pleased with. There's some young receivers that are up practicing with us some of the time. There's guys going down. I think the 2 young quarterbacks are really – we could go on and on. Our development and our plan right now, those scout team guys are getting coached by coordinators in the morning when special teams is going on, and we have some guys moving forward. And we're going to continue to look for ways, including Friday nights, when we're walking through and stuff, we do some developmental work, and that's been really physical. And so I'm really pleased with that.
With Duffy out, how do you feel like where you're at with corner?
Well, good. We've played 3 all year, and I think Antoine is ready. If he gets his number called, he's been really good in competitive one-on-one situations, and then he's just got to continue to grow and develop in the check system, right? Unbalanced formations, empty formations. Communication can be a little better. But me personally, I would be super excited to see him get an opportunity to play as well. But Jaquise and Anthony are supporting the run so well right now, just like Duff, that we're not dead in the water. I mean, I like the group. I like the 3 guys that have been playing a lot. It's just Duffy brings some energy and juice to us, and he's quietly become a really good leader for us and the guys that they look to. So that's, someone's going to have to replace that.
There are a ton of guys that were contributing the last time you were in Grand Forks, but how much do you talk about that game? Because that was about as bad as a day as this program's had in a while. How much do you, in walk up to this, talk about that Saturday?
10 seconds. And I talked about who we are. And I talked about, I'll give you something here. Here's what we talked about. The vision for the UND week. 4 great practices, 2 strong lifts. Devo knocked down 4 lifts, 6 locked-in meetings. Okay? Will allow us to get on the bus that morning really loose until the coaches stand up and say EDN. And then when we get off that bus, chest up, chin up, playing with a purpose and getting on the attack fast. But that's all earned confidence. You can't buy that off of some shelf. You got to practice great, and we're doing those things. But that's the mentality. That was the message. And 2 years ago has nothing to do with me, okay, except for I think I watched the game a little bit, all right? We need to go out there and make sure that we play a really physical game. That's a physical, tough football team that's going to pursue the ball really well. They will be ready. I think sometimes we overlook the fact, there's people that circle our game, and they begin the process of working on us in February. Okay, guys? And so we got to rise to whatever challenge that they're going to present, adjust, But the most important thing is our kids have fun and they play with their hair on fire together because this game matters to the region. 2 years ago has nothing to do with how we're going to play up there this year and how we're going to handle the atmosphere and what we're going to do out there today to prepare them for that environment.
You told me the day you got hired, the Dakota games mean a lot. What about that? Obviously, you came in that year, Bison lost all 3 games to the other Dakota
Yeah.
schools.
No, and I think, like, I think you're always kind of thinking the recruiting stuff, and I am too. It's all encompassing. Like, when you sit in the head coach's chair, you're thinking about all these different phases of what it takes to run a program. The Dakota games matter because we all have beautiful facilities. Okay? We all have pretty good support, so forth and so on. And so you're talking directly about the impact in recruiting. And then I think you're also talking about storied traditions and storied games and communities, households that are split. Jill and I, we're not split, but her stepbrother played at UND. My stepfather-in-law, has been up there supporting UND forever, and now he's a Bison fan. And so I just think about all those cool things and some of the battles and some of the great history, and that's what's fun about it. There's no hate between Eric and myself. Like, I respect this guy so much, and we actually hung out in the middle of the time that we were gone quite a bit. Well, then, Gordy Haug's on that staff. I mean, Gordy replaced me when I left here, and we had him on the staff as a GA. I mean, I know he can coach football, and he knows our 4-down system pretty good. Keaton Wilkerson, really bright young coach. Eric has done a good job of putting together his staff. Sean Costage has done a great job with special teams. Up there for a long time. That matchup is like right down. If you look at those numbers, I mean, it is splitting hairs, right? They blocked 2 kicks. They blocked a punt. I mean, this is going to be well-coached outfits, and the players will decide it. But I just think the Dakota games resonate with our people so much, right? We're prideful, regional, upper Midwest guys and people that have connections, and we don't shy away from relationships. Well, you're going to run into someone that's a Jackrabbit fan. You're going to run into someone that's a Fighting Hawks fan. Okay, you're going to run into people that love the Coyotes. I think that's really cool about this region. That's what really college athletics is supposed to be about.
Is the program different under Eric than it was under, as you're watching film and you're talking to people?
It's unique. It's unique because I knew, Coach Gazer worked with Bubba and saw Bubba operate. I think Eric's experiences away, playing in all those big games at Washington, being at Fresno State, being part of that league, and him and I having to do battle, partly coordinators, doing some things there. I think he's, I know he's a hardworking ball coach that's not going to get outworked, and he's hired a good staff with some youth and some experience, and you can just feel that they have a good energy. Out on the road recruiting, you can feel they have a good energy about when they're talking about their players and the connection. And that's probably the one thing I would say about their football team is you can see they have mapped out a plan similar to us as far as we're going to try to win games as a team. We'll do whatever it takes as a team. They're a very connected outfit right now.
Have you talked to your team about the implications of winning this game? That there's a possibility of clinching the conference by yourself?
Yeah.
The automatic bid? The opportunity to be a very high seed with the win here?
It's kind of interesting. He knows I watch all his stuff and I watch all the press conferences, but we talk about it on August 1st, wanting to get home field advantage. So we've been talking since November of the implications of every one of these wins and trying to position yourself for things that are down the road, but it's much easier at home. The higher you're seated, and the more you're sleeping at home, and the more you're practicing at the home, and the less you're traveling, and in the Fargo Dome, we're pretty tough and all those things in the playoffs. I'm not going to shy away from saying all these games starting in November, once the players kind of place us in this position, are very critical. We're here to get the job done. And this week it's UND, and it's going to have impact on seeding and so forth. And yeah, we're not afraid to talk about that, but that we keep it pretty simple. Goal 1, win home field advantage.
Can you take much from last year's tape on offense because of the differences in what Schmidt likes to run defensively than what you guys put on tape against?
No, they're drastic. I mean, they're drastic. That's a good question. You'd want to dive into it to look at a few people, I mean, again, the same answer I'd give you, to look at personnel. What did we run? What are they looking at? Because your eyes are still going to come back to the most familiar tape, the matchup. So you want to be really aware that way. But they're different enough on defense. This is a high pressure, high volume of pressure outfit. It's going to be critical that Cole can manage the run game and the protections in order to allow for some opportunity. But I think the one thing that is going to be interesting in this matchup is if we can get some things protected, there's opportunity out there, with our outlets, some things maybe in the check down realm. There's some soft space out there, but it's an aggressive nature. I mean, they play. They're playing with great pursuit right now and unbelievable fundamentals. This game, the small things like Jeff asked, how do you keep the crowd out of it? Being better at the basics. The fundamentals will always be the product of good quality football plays, and they do that really well too.
Third straight road trip of an hour bus ride. Is there a manual on an hour bus ride? Or
No, I don't know. But I'm curious. I think we've laid out a real good plan. So it feels like we're at a hotel from the time that we're together to going up there. So it's as similar to last week as possible. We'll just continue to stick to that the best we can. We'll do a lot of our work, information to the players, final details of the plan on Friday night, have a meal together. I'm really hoping our guys get away from the game for a moment and go over to the girls' basketball game, the women's basketball game. And then, Saturday morning, 8 o'clock chapel mass, we'll get a great message from Father Meyer and Jeff Curtis. And I think like I said, I want to get on the bus loose, but at about 2 hours and 40 minutes from this game, all outside communication is shut off. And we're focused on the 60 minutes that we get to play.
Coach, whether it's the big catch that Raja made, but then on the other side you see Bryce making blocks. What's it like seeing a wide receiver group that is willing to do both sides of the attack for you guys?
Well, yeah, they've been outstanding, especially just the physical grit downfield. That group is going to play really hard and block really well this week. We missed 2 opportunities because maybe they didn't quite get there. 1 inch too short, too long. You don't quite make it, that whole thing. But Raja specifically, I mean, I'm just starting to think about him as big play Raj. I mean, the kid's got great range, great awareness in the scramble drill. It's amazing how many tough slant plays him and Henderson caught the last 2 years, and our quarterbacks have been spot on. I really enjoy Raj. I mean, it's interesting. Just over the last week, I've had some real good leadership conversations with him. He's one guy that I've kind of identified. I would love for him to stick around here and give coaching a try, because I think 5 years from now he's going to call and ask about how to get into coaching. Well, then we're going to have bills, and then we're going to have someone involved in a life I got to take care of, and then it's really complicated to get back in.
Kaminsky, recruiting-wise, were you
Yeah.
surprised that he wasn't the guy last year? What changed to say that Jerry got the job here?
He's only a sophomore. So I could see some development needed. They've had some adjustment to their offense as well. I think Gordy's having a big impact on what they're doing offensively. Isaac does a great job up there, but not necessarily. Renfro was a little bit of an issue too, just running around. I don't know exactly how that competition all went or Jerry's progression. I spoke to his dad a little bit while that was going on, and he was real pleased with how it was moving forward. I think it took a big turn this last spring, is where they felt like he was starting to really be real comfortable falling into it. And Jerry was interested in recruiting. I've always been real close with his dad. His dad's a great high school football coach. They came out to Wyoming, and we were close. I mean, we were close to it. I thought in recruiting, I really enjoyed him. This kid is a football fanatic. He's a junkie. He worked at it really hard. And his dad, like I said, is a really good, respected track coach and football coach. And so I'm not sure on that. I'm not up there. I'm not in-house. You never know. Maybe it's the coordinator really likes this type of concept and just couldn't grasp it, and then all of a sudden got comfortable with it. I do think he's bigger and stronger and faster, and maybe that's part of it too.
Your knowledge of him, you think that can play an advantage for you, that you know how he plays?
It's just probably helpful to tell the defense coaches, hey, I know this guy's competitive spirit. I know how much football matters to him. He is really a highly competitive guy. I think the day that I was there watching him throw, Kansas was there as well. 2 or 3 other schools. it'll slip my mind now, but Montana might have been there that day, and he just was competing and grinding. Actually, Cortez was on that field too. You know, our backup running back and their backup left tackle was on that same team. And so that high school program's good. Jerry's a competitive guy. I'm sure that he's going to bounce back well from, you know, an okay performance last week.
Quist was obviously so much of what they were about for the last couple of years on offense. They seem to be a pretty balanced group. What do you guys need to do defensively well to have success on Saturday?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, you don't necessarily look forward to playing against a superstar, right? Because you know, he's capable and he's going to make plays, but it's easier to build plans, you know, to run a little bit of star coverage, cloud some guys. The fact they have two guys with over 20 catches, you know, Fleming's tough. You know, Nate, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. Sorry, Nate. But he's got 22 catches. You know, and Sawyer Seidel's been good in the run and pass game. He's a little bit bigger and stronger. I recruited him hard. His story is awesome. I just think between the quarterback run game, they'll call his number. You know, I had a good conversation with Coach Kleinman today, a little bit about their matchup and so forth. But the fact that they're spreading the ball and sharing the ball so well, it just makes you have to play great team defense opposed to taking away one element, right, and then being able to build a plan around that is the biggest difference. Belquist was tough last year.
You focus more on special teams in bigger games like this. So obviously, it was big for you last week against Youngstown, and you think about what happened to kick off the game 2 years ago, kind of like the fuel for them. I mean, is that something you really look at?
Are you asking me personally what I'm doing as a head coach now? I mean, no, our guys do the same thing every week, the assistant coaches. The first thing I do is I find out, are we going to get kick returns? Okay, because that's going to change the schedule. If a guy's just bombing it out of the end zone, why would you invest 10 minutes, invest 7? Does that make sense? So we'll structurally do some things, but that's the first thing I do is I try to get a pulse on. I mean, we were so close to keeping Youngstown State out of field goal range. The 30-yard line was all that kid had. You know, if we could have just got it tackled at the 32 or 33, they might have had to gone for it, and then the score would have been different as well. So I look at the punters and the kickers, like what are they capable of? How is it going to change the plan? And then anytime a team has, like I said, I think they have 3 balls blocked. I don't want to get it messed up, but a punt block and a couple kicks, you know, you look at those things real hard. But I trust our coaches. I got involved a little bit on kickoff cover this week. You know, that used to be kind of one of my things, and we just gotta sharpen up we got to detail our stuff and make sure our kids are playing fast and trusting their decisions.
Play.
We're still at 3. You know, anytime you're playing 4, it's because it's you got a bunch of battles going on and you're really I don't know and we got to be careful of Jalen because of the 4 games, but yeah, he'll play on special teams this week. I feel strongly about those 3 and those 3 getting us through the game. If something does happen, you know, Jalen will have to go in there and play. It's a little bit like corner. This will be the first time I think Will and Grant are going to be challenged. Can you build something for Antoine and get him in there and let's see him play? But I talked to a couple coaches a couple days ago. They're practicing with 75 guys. Fellas, nobody cares about the injury bug. We have to get these guys up to Grand Forks as fresh as possible. We got to be really mindful of how we practice. Today's going to be 20 periods. Tomorrow's 18, and then we'll be in Spiders on Wednesday and Thursday. I think we've hit enough, quite frankly, and we'll tackle.
How much does that put on Coach Kleiman's plate as far as, you know, maybe at one time there's super strict delineation between the free and the strong. Well, if you're going to play 3, they got to be able to play both positions. So how much does that put on his plate? And then like a guy like Ryan Jones, does he have to know everything from both positions, or do all 3 of those guys have to know? That's
kind of what happened last week when you guys asked who would start. Me and him hadn't had that conversation. The combination of Darius and Talon give us the most flexibility. So that's exactly right. You know, one guy's got to get stressed to be able to play both and back up both and be able to play both to give those guys a breather. Obviously, you guys are seeing us anytime we get an opportunity to sub versus a tempo team. We're looking to do that with safeties, potentially some nickel, but D tackles and safeties is where we're going for that as well. So we want to have the flexibility of playing multiple guys.
What stands out when you watch Malachi McNeil on film?
Just a really solid football player. That's a good question, right? Because he was all conference. I mean, he's got 56 tackles, so there's a lot of production there. I think some of their blitz stuff is even built for him to kind of be the free hitter, or where they're trying to funnel the ball. You know, they really trust him that way. At least that's my impression. The combination of having players on all three levels is always difficult. I think number 11 is a good safety DB, and then Zero Rucker has put together some really good rushes, and I'm not sure his movement skills don't impact the run game more than they do the pass game, just from the standpoint he can come underneath, overreach blocks and that kind of stuff. They're penetrating. This is an aggressive outfit, and they're going to challenge us on third down and play some coverage, play some man-to-man. And the details in which we run routes, the detail in which we get the ball out is going to be imperative.
I ask this because you haven't coached up there. What have you heard about the Alara Center and what to expect, I guess, from the noise of it, of that environment?
I'm trusting you guys. You're saying 2 times louder than down at South Dakota State. No, hey, anytime it's an indoor facility with passionate people, and what will be a good football game, you expect that noise level to go up. I coached up in Idaho, up in their dome, even like it wasn't like there was 50,000 people there. It's just louder, or how the stadiums are built. And so I'm anticipating putting a lot of pressure on our guys, taking them to the deep end of the pool this week, make it really difficult. If we had one leaf blower going right in the huddle a couple of weeks ago, we might have to get 2. Just trying to make it as challenging as possible. But then, quite frankly, those guys have to go play in that environment. I'm not going to say the player's name, but I had a mom call me once after a Penn State game. Hey, Coach, you better get that silent count squared away. My son's trying to go to the league, which he has. And he's gotten paid and all those things. But I said, ma'am, I got news for you. I don't know how to fix the dang silent count. He's going to have to grow up and handle this. And so, yeah, we're talking about some guys that haven't played in a real loud environment, because I thought we controlled it a little bit down in Brookings. And so how they respond is going to be a good tell of where they're at maturity-wise.
If things go haywire early like they did the last time NDSU was up there, have you talked about that as they staff to have things got out of hand early in that game because the kid ran the kickoff back to the touchdown and things just came unglued from the fan standpoint? Have you had that discussion with the staff?
I think our players, they could probably write the speech, not with the fire that hopefully I can bring to it, but they know how much I value Saturdays in the full 60 minutes, and just, no matter what, our toughness and our togetherness in the fourth quarter, we're going to win the fourth quarter, right? So some of those things that we talk about on a regular basis, I would think would allow us to continue to strain and push through a poor start. But then also offensively, it's funny, I'm hard on the run game and the production of the tailback run game, but we've also shifted gears. We're so balanced now, right, that sometimes the run game doesn't get the fair shake that it deserves. Where carry 20 and 25 are so much more productive than 15 and 10. I do like the fact that we can play in the 2-minute drill. I mean, you guys, right, I don't need to talk about the middle 8, and I got friends that are giving me crap about it, but we're 96-4 or something this year again, which if you look at that number over the course of 2 years, that's part of it. I've always wanted to be a head coach that positioned the football team to kind of be able to win multiple different ways. And I think if we have to tell Cam and the offensive coordinator, hey, let's pick the pace up. Let's put it on his shoulders and change gears a little bit. I like creating enthusiasm that way too.
Does an environment like that ever change the way you attack just basic strategy?
Yeah.
We might take the ball first instead of giving them an opportunity to go down and score.
There's several things that goes way deeper. I never would give you the answers because it would give insight to some things I had to learn the really hard way. I mean, playing at BYU is a miniature Penn State, and we had some things up that really put the ball at jeopardy, and you better be careful. If it goes to a certain level of this, that, or the other thing, how much do you want to be shift trading and motioning multiple people and then having the quarterback operate? I will say this, it'll be important that Dan's very clean. That Dan's very clean in his communication. Any call's better than no call, and the faster he can call this game and get it to the players, the better, so that we're not operating with a low shot clock. That I'll give you. That's about it.